Jerry was an ordinary guy, simple, reliable, with a love for bad jokes and late-night snacks. When he landed a job as a night shift security guard at a remote facility, he thought it was the perfect gig. How hard can it be? He chuckled, picturing himself munching on chips and watching movies all night. But the facility wasn't your usual kind. Tucked deep in the woods, it had a reputation, a bad one. Stories swirled around the town about strange occurrences, whispering voices and ghostly apparitions. But Jerry wasn't one to buy into those supernatural mumbo-jumbo, as he called it. He'd seen enough horror movies to know it was all nonsense. His first night on the job started just as he expected. The facility was eerily quiet, with long, dimly lit hallways and a security office that smelled faintly of mildew. He settled in, armed with his trusty flashlight, a thermos of coffee, and a playlist of cheesy 80s hits to keep him company. But as the clock struck midnight, things began to get weird. The first sign was subtle, a cold draft that seemed to come out of nowhere. Jerry shivered but brushed it off, blaming the ancient ventilation system. Then came the sounds, faint at first, like whispers just out of earshot, growing louder and more insistent as the night wore on. He turned up the volume on his music, hoping to drown out whatever it was. At 2 a.m., the power went out. Great, Jerry muttered, fumbling for his flashlight. The emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie, flickering shadows on the walls. And that's when he saw it, the first glimpse of something truly unsettling. Down the hallway, just at the edge of the light, a figure stood. It was barely visible, more shadow than substance, but unmistakably human-shaped. Jerry's heart skipped a beat. "Who's there?" he called out, trying to keep his voice steady. No answer. The figure didn't move, didn't even seem to acknowledge his presence. Jerry's instincts screamed at him to run, but his pride wouldn't let him. "It's just a trick of the light," he told himself. The figure melted into the darkness, disappearing as suddenly as it had appeared. Jerry shook his head, laughing nervously. "Get a grip, man. You're seeing things." But the night had other plans. Everywhere he turned, the shadows seemed to twist and move on their own. He could feel eyes on him, cold and calculating. And the whispers, they weren't just random noises anymore. They formed words, chilling in their clarity. "Leave, now!" Jerry, who never believed in ghosts, was starting to reconsider. He did what any rational person would do. He tried to ignore it. "Nope, not happening. Not listening to you. Casper," he muttered, turning up his music again. But the spirits were persistent. Doors that were securely locked creaked open on their own. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways. And the figure, it kept appearing, closer each time, its form becoming clearer, more defined. By 4 a.m., Jerry was a nervous wreck. "Why didn't I just become an accountant?" he groaned, clutching his flashlight like a lifeline. The figure, now unmistakably a ghostly woman, stood right in front of him, her eyes hollow and sad. "You must leave," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. Jerry's legs finally betrayed him, and he bolted down the hallway, heart pounding in his chest. He stumbled into the security office, slamming the door behind him. He huddled in the corner, flashlight flickering, as the ghostly woman's voice echoed in his ears. "You must leave." Just when he thought he was done for, the first rays of dawn broke through the windows. The whispers faded, the cold draft vanished, and the power flickered back on. The facility was suddenly calm, as if nothing had happened. Jerry didn't wait for his shift to end. He grabbed his things and sprinted out of there, not bothering to clock out. He never went back. As he reached the safety of his car, gasping for breath, he laughed, a high, nervous sound. Well, that was different. He fumbled for his keys, hands shaking. "Guess I'll be looking for a new job, maybe in broad daylight." But as he drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. For just a moment, he swore he saw the ghostly woman standing in the road, watching him go. He didn't stick around to find out if she was real or just his imagination. Moral of the story? Never take a night shift at a haunted facility, especially if you're afraid of ghosts or bad 80s music.